I just got back from watching David Cronenberg's new movie, The Shrouds, at the Music Box, and I wrote a little review about it. And it goes a little something like this. The Shrouds is new in select theaters. It's written and directed by David Cronenberg. After his wife Becca, played by Diane Kruger, died of a lengthy stint with cancer, industrial documentarian Karsh, played by Vincent Cassel, played part in developing the Shrouds, a new technology which envelops a recently departed loved one in a 3D mapping cloak, which allows those the deceased left behind to see the body under the ground, going through the natural decaying process. Karsh then expanded this technology, offering it up to others, and eventually developed his own cemetery featuring the Shrouds viewing system, specifically coded to only be seen by the departed's loved ones. But after the cemetery is vandalized, Karsh begins to suspect there's some kind of conspiracy afoot involving mechanical implants placed inside of his wife during her cancer treatment that he discovered while obsessing over his wife's decaying body. This conspiracy is furthered by Becca's sister Terry, also played by Diane Kruger, her ex-husband and co-creator of the Shroud's technology, Maury, played by Guy Pearce, and Sue Min, played by Sandrine Holt, who is the wife of one of the doctors who worked on Becca's cancer treatments. So therein lies the mystery of whether or not a conspiracy exists, who may be behind it, and whether or not Karsh should give a shit about any of it and just get on with his life. Morbid? You betcha. The Shrouds is a thorough examination of death, dying, what happens after death, and the grief one goes through having buried a loved one. Cronenberg has been asked if the film was a reaction to the death of his own wife by cancer, and while he says that this was the inspiration for the film, it took on a life of its own and is not some kind of autobiographical piece. It also is not quite horror, though it does deal with the way we all face that great unknown in our own twisted ways. I have to admit this film hit me. I encountered death at quite a young age, as my own father lost his battle with cancer when I was 12 years old. And while there are some moments I don't remember since it was a considerable amount of time ago, the description Karsh gives about how he felt when his wife died resonated with me on a level I wasn't expecting. Not only was Cronenberg able to put it into words, and actor Vincent Cassel able to bring the emotion to life, but this story really touched me in the delicate way it probes into man's greatest fear. In the end, this is one of the more uplifting films Cronenberg has ever made, believe it or not, coming to a very mature yet optimistic end despite how morbid the final images are. As usual, Cronenberg drops this very human story into a world that is maybe a few years, but more likely just a few months away. I could see this manner of burial actually becoming a real thing. Karsh drives around in a Tesla, which in itself has become ironically funny these days. Karsh has an avatar on his phone that basically acts as his own personal assistant, a His Girl Friday or a money penny, if you will, who digs for information, investigates these various conspiracies for him, and basically manages Karsh's day-to-day business. Cronenberg identifies the absurd aspects of our technologies today and takes it a half step further. Honestly, I want one of those personal assistant avatars on my phone to help me keep all of my things in order. And most likely, someone's going to see the Shrouds and make this very thing a reality soon enough. And most likely, Cronenberg will not get any of that credit. On top of all that, The Shrouds is quite funny. Not in an overt, over-the-top way, but the film is filled with gallows humor, and I couldn't help but laugh at the absurd way Karsh bumbles through his life rather cluelessly and follows the advice of everyone around him, each of them having their own strange conspiratorial-laden explanation as to what is going on. I do feel this darkly jovial tone was intended as not just a means to let loose some of the tension and darkness in this morose subject matter, but also to highlight how humans use humor as a coping mechanism when faced with dire circumstances. The Shrouds leaves a lot unexplained. I feel that those looking for a complete story with all of the answers are going to feel a bit befuddled when the credits roll after the abrupt final scene. I found myself wondering, is that it by the end? But still, I'm bouncing this film around in my brain long after it's over. It hit me on a visceral level. It's dealing with death, and no one knows what that is. So how can we come up with an answer for it? Cassell's refined and almost monotone delivery, not unlike Cronenberg's distinct delivery itself, makes for a protagonist you can basically project anything onto. He's nothing but grief, preferring to gaze at his rotting wife rather than move on. Still behind that stone, almost alien-like exterior, Cassell is able to communicate the fear and fascination death embodies so well that you can't help but sympathize with the guy. Still, the bulk of the heavy lifting in The Shrouds goes to Diane Kruger, who plays 3 roles, that of Kirsch's dead wife Becca, her sister Terry, and finally Honey, the avatar on Kirsch's phone. Each role is distinct, each role is sensual and sexy in their own way, and each role is equally tragic. Yes, even the story of the avatar has a deeper meaning than acting simply as a digital personal assistant. Kruger is unbelievably versatile in these roles, and while I knew these parts were all played by the same actress going in, on sight, I doubt many will notice it's the same actress. And while his role is much less attractive and downright despicable at times, Guy Pearce gets a chance to show his creepier side, and creepy it sure is. With The Shrouds, Cronenberg's still got that gift for peeking into the future that dazzled us with Videodrome back in the day. Cronenberg still feels on the cusp of uncomfortable subject matter, unafraid to venture into places people are afraid to talk about, and willing to look at today's society and where we are in our intimate relationships with technology to bring forth a highly emotional story. But is The Shrouds horror? Well, we get to see what being in the grave does to a body. Honestly, there have been times I've wondered about that after all this time, what my father looks like down there underneath all of that earth. That's a pretty morbid thought, I know, and I don't think I would have acknowledged it had I not watched The Shrouds. So there are some quite horrifying themes the film plays with and will bring out of you if you've experienced death in your life. There's also some patented body horror in terms of how Becca's body is being destroyed piece by piece from the cancer and the treatments that is downright terrible to watch. There's an especially intimate scene between Becca and Kirsch that honestly almost broke me at how viscerally real it all was. While body horror has an elusive meaning, I feel what Cronenberg really is a master of is how he brings to life the utter and absolute horror of having one's body become a stranger, and in one particular scene, he illustrates that point perfectly in The Shrouds. And of course, there's the overlying blanket of conspiracy that Kirsch delves with throughout the entire story. So put all of that together and squint a bit, and I think you could make a horror movie out of The Shrouds, though thriller is probably the most accurate genre it falls into. All that said, I feel that The Shrouds is more of an intriguing film delving into ideas, feelings, and societal trends. It's a thought-provoker, a conversation starter, something you discuss with others when things get quiet, intellectual, maybe a little drunk, and deep. All the while, I feel the sudden ending, the answers left undealt with, and the ethereal meaning of the whole damn movie is going to turn off a lot of folks. It's not a typical narrative, but Cronenberg never was a typically narrative filmmaker. I don't know if I would label The Shrouds as entertaining, at least not in a mainstream sense, as there are quite a few lulls in this morose yet beautiful story, but man is it a film made by a filmmaker that got my brain working in ways few other movie and movie makers can. Have you seen The Shrouds? What do you think of Cronenberg? His new stuff and his old stuff? Which ones do you prefer? Let me know down in the comments. Please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're